OEM Bike Pack 0.19.1 just released for MX Bikes, and I'm going to bring you guys my most updated Husky 450 motocross setup. Every 450 has plenty of speed in my opinion, but something about the way the Husky reacts is really good, and it's honestly just a really good bike all around. I would maybe even call it the best 450 at the moment for motocross, or close to it. The setup I have today is especially really good for like chattery bumps, like close, small bumps. It almost feels like they're not even there and your bike kind of just shoots right through them. The stock setup definitely feels a lot more jumpy than this and wants to kind of buck you around even in the smaller jumps. All right, getting into the setup, general, we have a little bit changed. I mean, if we compare it to the default, the only thing I changed is the tire pressure. The lower your tire pressure, the more grip you're going to get. I haven't lowered it all the way. I mean, because you can go down to 8 PSI. I don't really know what the con of going down in tire pressure would be. I know in real life, you definitely risk popping a tire if you had the lower PSI. In this game, there's not really that risk. I haven't messed around with the super low tire pressure a lot. I know I like the grip on 11.2, and I definitely wouldn't go up. As far as the brakes, I would do whatever you want to do. You could use the 240 millimeter if you want it on rear disc. I just have it 220 and 18. The brakes are good enough for me. I don't really need them any stronger. All right, so getting into the geometry, I didn't change anything for the fork offset. Stock is fine. Fork height, I did 4 millimeters. Swing arm length, I did 8. And rod length, I did 150 millimeters. With the rod length, I turned it up to 150 millimeters. And that's actually going to make it sag a little bit more than stock. The swing arm length, I changed to 8, as that's going to widen up the wheelbase, make it a little bit longer. It's going to make your bike handle the bumps a little bit more. And then with the fork height, just change it to 4 millimeters. Put the mapping on the green race one. I mean, I think it just makes the bike a little bit more aggressive. Getting into the drivetrain, I don't really mess with it that much. You could turn the rear sprocket down a little bit, giving you a little bit more high end in each gear, giving you more top speed. I personally just left it 51, but you could put it down a little bit and use a little bit more first gear. It honestly just depends on your personal preference. Getting into the suspension setup, this is where I did most of the changes. Getting everything to match and work together was definitely the hardest part of it. But once I got it good, it felt really, really good. So the spring, I put 30 pounds an inch. Compression, I actually turned down a little bit because what I liked is how the suspension wouldn't compress really quick or right away. So if you're going over a lot of bumps, it would kind of just like slowly start to go down. It would never go slow enough to where it would reach the bottom before rebounding, but it would slow it down a little bit and make the bike not so twitchy hitting the bumps. The rebound I actually like to turn up. It kind of makes it to where that compression, with being lower, the rebound will go up and kind of counteract how low it is. So it feels really smooth going down, and you don't really notice it going back up because of how slow it goes down. Guys like Reaper Doc talk about how with the rebound being higher, you get the wheels back onto the ground and get more traction. I haven't really noticed a difference in how fast my wheels get to the ground, like in between bumps. I've only used it on some pretty rough tracks, but this rebound with the compression definitely works really well. For the preload, I went slightly stiffer, went up to 5 millimeters. It kind of just made it if I went any softer, it would make that compression bottom out too easily, which you wouldn't want. You'd want that preload to be a little bit stiffer, with the compression being a little slower so it doesn't just bottom out the forks. You could go a little stiffer, but I like the preload right where it is. And on oil, you can just do 80 millimeters. That's what works the best in my opinion. Getting into the rear suspension, I put the spring at 262 pounds an inch. The low speed compression I also turned down along with the high speed compression. Kind of just like the front, and makes it to where it doesn't compress down too quickly and add up to where it's just constantly compressed at the bottom end. It slows down a little bit. It doesn't need to go so quick. And then the rebounds turn back up to where it's able to come back up before you hit that next bump, to cause it to just keep getting lower and lower. The preload, I stiffened 2 clicks on this actually, and it just seemed perfect for the back end. If there's anything I would play with, I would maybe play with the preload on each. You can maybe stiffen or soften it. I like this a lot for me. Depending on the different tracks, you'll want to adjust the preload and the rebound though. So for example, for the way I have this set up, it's really good on fast, choppy tracks, but not too big of bumps. I mean, really with the really, really big bumps, there's not a lot you can do. You're always going to hit them and get kicked by them. And so for most tracks, they have a little bit of choppiness in motocross. Even some of the ARL tracks, the rougher tracks, it works really good through the choppiness unless you hit like one big kicker. I would say this works the best. Doing ARL or MX Bikes GP, you could mess with it a little bit just to handle those bigger bumps a little bit easier. If you were going to mess with it for the bigger bumps though, what I'd personally do is probably turn the rebound down a little bit and stiffen your preload slightly. I just want to say thanks to Scrallex for making his video about the MX bike setups and how they work. He made a video that really goes in depth on all the different things, the compression, the rebound, how to set your sag up, how to make everything match and kind of work with each other. I definitely wouldn't have been able to make the setup I did if I didn't watch his video. So huge shout out to him. And if you guys have any questions with how any of that stuff works, definitely go check out his video linked in the description. That's my setup for the Husky 450 for motocross. Hope you guys all enjoy the setup. I will be making videos for more bike setups as well. So if you guys want to see that, make sure you guys subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.